Welcome to this explainer. A lot of people ask what it actually feels like to climb the wealth ladder. So today, we're taking a direct point-of-view journey through your life at every single level of net worth. But listen, we aren't just going to sit here and crunch the math. We're going to dig into the hidden behavioral science, the extreme psychological shifts and lifestyle changes that literally make going from $0 to $100 million possible. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so we're starting at the absolute bottom. $0. This is the foundation, and honestly, it is the most psychologically taxing, exhausting phase of the entire wealth journey.
Here's the roadmap we're following today. We'll navigate level 0, scarcity and survival. Push to the first 100,000, experience the POV of your first million, shift to offense at 8 figures, and then finally hit the ultimate tier of $100 million.
Starting with Part 1, Level 0, Scarcity and Survival.
Picture this for a second. You check your bank balance, your chest immediately tightens, and the anxiety just hits you like a ton of bricks. You are in deep survival mode. Psychologists call this the scarcity mindset, and the crazy thing is, it actually rewires your brain. It eats up so much of your mental bandwidth that you're literally forced to make short-term, stress-based decisions. It's wild because those innocent little habits you use just to cope, they actually end up draining what tiny bit of money you have left. So you wind up trapped on this incredibly frustrating financial hamster wheel. Think about it. Every single payslip you get is just covering yesterday's survival. You aren't building a future at all. You're just paying off the past. To even start climbing toward wealth, you've got to consciously, aggressively interrupt this scarcity loop.
Which brings us to Part 2, the first 100,000.
So let's say you finally break that cycle, and suddenly you have some cash. But here's the weird part. The panic doesn't actually disappear, it just transforms. Behavioral scientists call this new phase defensive pessimism. You essentially start anticipating negative outcomes just so you can proactively prepare for them. You trust absolutely nothing, and you start hoarding cash in an emergency fund like the worst recession in history is hitting tomorrow morning.
You find yourself locked into this rigid new playbook. Step 1, stockpile cash. Step 2, max out the 401k. Step 3, avoid credit card debt like the absolute plague. It's those classic super protective money habits, where you become fiercely loyal to your savings rate, yet somehow highly suspicious of ever actually feeling secure. You're prepared for anything, sure, but you are playing 100% on defense.
And this creates a huge amount of internal tension. You find yourself constantly wrestling with this classic dilemma. Do you aggressively pay down your debt just to get that emotional peace of mind, or do you invest your extra cash to capture compound market growth? The math tells you to invest, but your defensive pessimism is screaming at you to just pay off the debt.
Moving on to Part 3, the POV of your first million.
Let's say you push through, you stay the course, and you finally hit that $1 million mark. Amazing, right? Well, for years, you were sitting below the minimum threshold where compound interest actually feels real. But at $1 million, you hit the tipping point. The math totally shifts. Your money finally starts doing the heavy lifting for you, and you unlock true exponential wealth growth.
Psychologically, though, things get really complicated here. Enter a behavioral concept called mental accounting. You've painstakingly built this wealth, and now you are absolutely terrified of losing it. You start subjectively categorizing your funds, which can trigger some pretty irrational decisions. Thanks to extreme loss aversion, the pain of losing just one single dollar now vastly outweighs the joy of making another one.
It is so fascinating to see how your innocent habits completely mutate at this level. I mean, your Sundays are no longer spent kicking back and relaxing. Instead, they're spent obsessively refreshing your 401k balance and tweaking these colorful spreadsheets. Your energy has shifted entirely toward fiercely protecting your fortress of savings.
Let's look at Part 4, 8 figures, shifting offense.
Okay, so breaking past the $10 million mark requires a radical, honestly kind of uncomfortable psychological shift. Think about it. The first million mindset relied entirely on strict debt avoidance. But the 8-figure mindset, it requires you to completely unlearn your fear of credit. You have to master strategic debt, using borrowed money to buy appreciating assets and legally utilizing the kinds of tax-free structures that a middle-class mindset completely runs away from.
The brutal truth is, you cannot save your way to $10 million. Your portfolio has to evolve. It goes from a very predictable, boring 401k into this massive, complex machine. You're balancing real estate empires, scaling online businesses, and managing heavy stock assets. At this stage, you aren't just an investor anymore. You have become a master capital allocator.
And finally, Part 5, the ultimate tier of $100 million.
Welcome to the summit. At $100 million, the standard math of compound interest becomes completely irrelevant. Just think about the journey to get here. Maybe it started with a rough startup idea in year 1, you scaled it into a massive empire by year 5, and you hit an IPO by year 10. Now, you are so incredibly well capitalized that you're effectively operating as your own financial institution. You are practicing systemic capital management. You're moving markets rather than just participating in them.
But at this ultimate tier, your daily problems are basically unrecognizable from level 0. Your focus shifts entirely to legacy and trusts. You are actively insulating capital against massive global market crashes. You've officially moved from a broke origin story to building a multi-generational dynasty. And ironically enough, your absolute biggest fear now is protecting this massive wealth from bad heirs who never actually had to struggle to earn it.
And honestly, that fear is entirely justified. Listen to this. Someone could inherit this exact $1 million and easily go broke in 3 years without the right psychological foundation. Why? Because without the defensive pessimism, without the strict budgeting, and without those mental frameworks you were literally forced to build during the climb from zero, sudden wealth evaporates incredibly fast.
Which brings us to the ultimate question you have to ask yourself right now. Based on the financial choices and the psychological habits you are practicing today, are you laying the groundwork for a dynasty that outlasts you, or are you just setting yourself up to lose it all? Really think about that the next time you check your bank balance. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep building your foundation, and I'll see you in the next one.